Hello. Is a buyer strategy session really necessary? Hi, I'm Mackenzie with Call Group Residential, and I wanted to share something that we talk a lot about, not only on our team, but also within our bigger firm family, eXp Realty. And do we need to have a buyer strategy session? Do we need to have a buyer appointment? We talk all the time about listing appointments and going on a listing where you explain your value, you explain what you're doing for the seller, how you're going to get them top dollar in the quickest amount of time. And so I think we got away the last couple of years in a market that we didn't even have time to have a conversation with our clients. We got away from sitting down and really asking a buyer, what are they really looking for? So today I want to share with you what we talk about and what we share with our agents to not make it be about us, but to show our value and in return listening to what the customer and hopefully and eventually the client is looking for. So I'm going to discuss 5 parts, 5 steps to the buyer strategy session that we talk about at Call Group and eXp Realty. And that first one is really just trying to get them into our office. If you don't have an office, getting them to a quiet place where you know that we're here to discuss your real estate needs. We're here to discuss what it is that you're looking for. So if you have an office, wonderful. Let's have them come to the office. Let's make it be a very official, very professional presentation and or discussion. And then that second one, part of the conversation is asking them, what are you looking for? What is that dream house? What is that unicorn? Getting somebody truly, truly excited about why they're going through this process, because it can be a tough process. It can be an emotional process. So really asking them, what is it that you need? What kind of house do you want? How big do you want the house to be? How do you live in your house? So once you get all of those questions, and I'm kind of not going too in detail on this because a lot of you guys already asked the questions, how many bedrooms, how many baths, what's the square footage, do you want a big yard, do you want a flat yard, all of that. But get a little deeper, get a little bit more specific on how do you live in that home? How do you spend the most of your time when you're at home? Do you spend it in the kitchen? Do you spend it in the family room? Do you spend it outside? So that way, when you're looking at houses, you can pull back that knowledge and you can pull back from that and you can really kind of dig deeper. And then don't leave this part of the presentation without asking, why is this important to you? So for example, if they say they have to have 4 bedrooms, don't just assume because you've met their 2 kids that maybe they want a bedroom for themselves, each of their children to have a bedroom, and then the 4th bedroom is for guests. So when you ask them why 4 bedrooms, because if I find a house that checks all of the other boxes and it only has 3 bedrooms, will we say no to this house? And so when you dig deeper and you really understand why they want the 4 bedrooms, why they need a bedroom on the 1st floor, why they need a fenced-in backyard, why they need an open kitchen concept, because that could be because they grew up with grandma cooking in the kitchen every weekend and they just want to have that same kind of feel for their family. You can pull back and you can draw back from this conversation if they're having trouble pulling the trigger, if they're getting frustrated because they can't find that house. Reminding them of their why and reminding them of their motivation is essential to get somebody kind of to that next level. And you as the realtor won't know unless you ask the question, right? So they're going to come into an office, they're going to come into a space that is very professional, is very quiet, is free from all distractions. You're going to have them sit down and you're going to ask them the very first question is, explain to me that perfect home, right? Explain to me what it is exactly that you're looking for, because you want to create this energy. You want to create this emotion. What we know is buyers buy an emotion. And so we need to tap into it, not take advantage of it, but tap into it. And then when you're asking them what they're looking for, digging deeper and asking them why all of these non-negotiables are incredibly important, okay? So those are gonna be the first couple of steps to really establish rapport, to establish that they're talking more, to establish that you're asking questions, because something else that we say is the person who's asking the questions is the person who is in charge of the conversation. So we want to hear them. We want them speaking more than we're speaking, but we also want to make sure that we are in charge of how this is going, because again, that's going to show our level of professionalism. So then the next part that we need to explain or discuss is the market, a market update. And something that I see a lot of agents do is immediately go into, okay, so our inventory is this, the market is really tight right now, the market is this, the market is that. And the error that I see in that is, again, we are assuming that we know what the client and or customer knows about the market, and we're making it about us. So I challenge you that the very first question that you ask the customer is, what have you heard and or what do you know about the local market? Because 9 times out of 10, what they know about the local market is what they heard on the national news or what they heard in a national article. And we know as professionals that every market is completely different and very specific. So when you ask the question, what do you know about the market? What have you heard about the market? Is this the first time that you're ever buying in our market? Then you know how to tailor your conversation so that you're giving them information that they want to hear, not information we think we need to give to show our value. The way we show our value is by listening to them, asking them a question, truly listening to their answer, and then sharing whatever information it is that they're asking us to. So then based on their knowledge, based on what they do know and don't know, you know then what to explain to them. So another example is if you want to start talking about the market and you've had a very short conversation with this customer or this lead, and you start going off about residential this and residential that and living in the home, if my question was, what do you know about the market and why are you buying? And he's an investor, he or she's an investor, my conversation about the market is going to be incredibly different than my conversation for a first-time home buyer. So asking those questions and asking what they know, also asking them, what do you want to know about the market, right? So those are very powerful questions because they're going to help lead you, agent, to share information to them that is going to be incredibly powerful for them. And that's how we show our value. We don't show our value by just vomiting information. We need to know the information, which means before this presentation even takes place, you have done your market research based on where they are and what they're looking for. And hopefully you've had a little bit of information before you're sitting down with somebody, if they're an investor, if they're a first-time home buyer, and so on and so forth. But don't be afraid and don't make the mistake, I should say, of first asking, what do you know about the market, right? So you've established rapport, they've come into a quiet place, you're sitting down, this is professional, there's no distractions, you're asking them what they're looking for, you're asking them what that perfect home looks like, you're asking them why those aspects are incredibly important to them, and then you're asking them, before we get started, what do you know about the market, right? What is it that you're looking for in this market? And you're really establishing their knowledge base. Therefore, then you can then talk to them about what you do know about the market because you've done your research ahead of time. That fourth step in a buyer presentation is going to be the buying process. Now, again, this goes back to the thought of, are they a first-time home buyer? Are they an investor? So really having some sort of literature with you, very basic literature that's going to help guide you in the home buying process. Every state's going to be different. In the state of North Carolina, we have part of our process with a non-refundable deposit, which is a whole nother conversation and probably a whole nother video. But asking them, what do you know about the process? Have you ever bought a home in our state? Number one, have you ever bought a home in the last 5 years? Because if they're not a first-time home buyer, then my next question is going to be, okay, when was the last time you purchased a home? Because purchasing a home in our market 10 years ago is much different than purchasing a home in our market in the last, let's say, 4. So I really want to dig a little bit deeper, ask another question on top of another question to really understand what they know about that process. And then this is something that as you are having conversations and as you're asking the questions is at the same time, you're kind of trying to discern what type of personality, if you will, that customer has. So I'm sure a ton of you watching this have heard about the DISC personality, and we do a ton of personality, I guess I would trainings, if you will, just to understand how we can match the personality of the person in front of us to what they need to hear from us, sort of thing. And so when I'm explaining that home buying process, I'm really making sure that I'm explaining it in a way that they need to hear it, or the way they want to hear it, so that I'm either not getting too in depth for somebody who is just like, just give me the basics, or for somebody who needs me to be incredibly specific, I'm taking that time to be incredibly specific with them. So I'm going to do an overview of that home buying process, and I'm going to say, this is where we're going to start together, and this is where we're going to end together. I'm going to use a lot of language that's future pacing when we start looking at houses, when we get to the offer stage, when we get under contract. So as I'm having a conversation, I'm future pacing what the next steps are in every step of the buyer presentation, because my goal at the end of the conversation is they're like, yeah, Mackenzie's my realtor. Of course, I'm going to sign buyer agency agreement, which is that last and final piece of a presentation, a buyer presentation, a buyer consult, a buyer strategy session, whatever it is that you want to call it. And I'm going to kind of piggyback and go back to like a listing presentation is, we tell our agents that if you're in a listing presentation and you're sitting in front of somebody and you're going through your presentation, you're showing your value, you're going through all of the steps, that then at the very end, when you present the listing present the listing agreement, there aren't any objections because you've handled them, or you have presented in a way that they're like, well, yeah, next steps would be to sign this listing agreement with Mackenzie and list our house. So it's kind of the same mentality when you're thinking of a buyer presentation, that you're giving the value that they need because you've asked the questions. You're showing your market knowledge by asking them what they know about the market and being able to answer their questions. So as I'm future pacing through the entire presentation or consultation, my last piece of the presentation is, okay, so next steps would then be for us to go into an agreement to be able to work together. And I'm not going to get too in detailed into our buyer agency agreement because, again, you might be watching this from another state and everything is different. But in some states might not even have a buyer agency agreement. But here in North Carolina, the buyer agency agreement is an agreement, is a document, a working relationship, we call it, between the agent, or I would say the firm, if I'm getting very specific, between the firm and the client. And it is an agreement of a length of time that me, agent, on behalf of the firm, will represent the buyer in the transaction. And so a lot of people get a little bit nervous to sign a contract. They get nervous to get locked into some sort of agreement, which I can understand in this day and age. And so it's our job, I believe, as a real estate agent to up front in that presentation is to really explain what does it mean to be working with me? What does that process look like? What is that future pacing? What will next steps be? So that at the end of the consultation, there aren't any objections, if you will, to signing the buyer agency agreement. So a lot of times, I think that just from working with agents, it's okay, I need to get them into an agreement so that they promise to work with me, so therefore that I can find the house and then I can get them under contract and then I can get a sale. So coming from that place, we could sound and or feel or project a little bit of anxiousness. We could maybe perhaps project the feeling that I'm just in this for the sale. Unfortunately, we know real estate agents don't have the best reputation, that we can come off kind of salesy. And so it's important for me when I'm speaking with any client, whether it's a buyer or a seller, that they know we're having this meeting not because it's something that I need to do, it's because it's what's in your best interest, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer. Us sitting down having this conversation is going to help me understand what you need out of this business relationship, what you need to happen throughout this entire transaction, so that we're on the same page. Because if we're not on the same page, not only are you going to get frustrated, but I'm going to get frustrated too. And so laying out what the process looks like, asking the questions of why are you buying a house? Why are these aspects important to you in a house? What do you know about the market? What do you know about the buying process? And then being able to answer all of those questions that they don't know makes it incredibly easy, or I should say easier, to then conclude your consultation with. Now, next steps for us to find that perfect home to get you into your dream house before the summer starts or before school starts. Remember, going back to their motivation, going back to their why, is for us to sign this mutually exclusive agreement that I'm going to be working for you and we're going to be working together on this business agreement. So, I hope that was helpful to you as a big overview, because again, everyone's different and the way they present information, everyone's different, and how they want to communicate with their customers to then hopefully have them become their clients. But just as you would with a listing and a seller, really think about what value are you providing as a buyer's agent? What value are you providing to that customer that's like, you know what, I do want to work with him or her? Or they are in this for me, they are not in this for themselves, that they truly care about what I want, what I need, when I need it, right? Their timeline, and not thinking about all the other things and not future pacing ourselves to a sale, but we're future pacing ourselves to a relationship. Because what we know about real estate is we are here to serve the people and we are here to serve the process. And I truly believe that if we serve the people, that if we serve the process, the byproduct is the sale of the home. That's a non-starter. That's going to happen. But what we need to think about ahead of time is, what are we doing to future pace ourselves as real estate agents to be able to create that relationship and help our customer and our client to find that future perfect home. Hopefully this is helpful, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.